ladies and gentlemen, it is February 21st. It's 5 o'clock this evening, ladies and gentlemen. And this is One Nation with Cooper Balitsos. Right now, we have lots of big news stories that happened last week that we're going to talk about right now here on this show today. So first, we're going to get to that breaking news out of the Middle East. More ships and more U.S. Equipment is heading to the Middle East, along with the Gerald Ford, largest aircraft carrier and strike group, heading to the Middle East right now, as a potential war is possibly going to happen maybe this coming week if Iran does not make a deal with the U.S. about its nuclear capabilities. So right now, the only aircraft carrier that is out there is the USS Abraham Lincoln, but there are tens and tens of ships right now that are out there. Military bases in around the Middle East are on high alert. There has been close calls with drones that have potentially gotten close to the USS Abraham Lincoln, and they have been shot down from Iran. Now, military bases all across the Middle East, some have been evacuated. A lot of their civilians and families of the military workers that are there have been evacuated. But right now, the goal right now is not to have a potential war, but President Trump said on Friday that he possibly might make his decision maybe this weekend or next week if Iran does not make a deal. Now, Iran has 10 days to do this. Well, he said that on Thursday or Wednesday, so pretty much he has now 7 days to do this. So it's going to be a very next couple of weeks, or next week as we progress, is going to be a very stern week, because Iran has done military drills in the Persian Gulf with Russia. And you'll get my opinion here in just a minute on this. But right now there is so much military assets. It's the largest military assets that is in the Middle East right now since the invasion of Iraq back in 2003. So, but right now, Russia, like I said, and Iran are doing military drills. Now, first off, Russia is a very big key partner with Iran's military, along with China. Russia and China have sent military supplies and funding over to Iran since the bombing, or since the 12-day war against Israel and Iran. Now, Russia, first off, is in a war with the country of Ukraine, is in a war with the invasion of the country of Ukraine. Now, Russia has lost over 700,000 troops. Ukraine has lost over 500,000 troops. So you're looking at around 1.2 million troops that have died, and that's not even talking about the civilians. It's the deadliest war since World War II in Europe. So right now, if Russia wants to get involved, they're pretty much not. I don't think they're going to get involved because they can't handle their own war that they are doing. Ukraine's army is one of the smallest, strongest in the world. Russia has one of the biggest in the world, probably number 2 or number 3 in the world, behind the U.S. and China. Now, right now, Russia, like I said, cannot get into another war because it's just going to limit their troops and get more of their military equipment destroyed and their troops killed. And right now, their all ties is on Ukraine. But for right now, if we turn back a page, let's go back down memory row. So on June 13th, I believe, on the early morning of June 13th in the Middle East, Israel surprised attack Iran in these attacks. Now, it killed 4 of their top military leaders, the head, like the Secretary of Defense, you would say here in America, that person in Iran, Israel, did. And for 12 days, Israel and Iran traded strikes and rockets. Israel limited their ballistic missile system. And then on June 22nd or 23rd, the U.S. bombed the nuclear program in Iran with B-2 bombers, and it was Midnight Hammer. And then the day after that, Iran launched 6 rockets towards the largest military base for the U.S. in the Middle East, in Qatar, and those strikes did not even hit the ground; they were intercepted in air. So there's that. But when we go to these nuclear strikes, if you look on satellite pictures, yes, Iran is building their nuclear strikes again, but they're also building their military again. They're building more ballistic missiles. They're building new radar systems. They're building lots of better military equipment and infrastructure for military. So there's that. But when these nuclear talks back in June happened, the day after these nuclear talks failed, President Trump gave them the timeline, and when they went over that timeline, that day, Israel struck them. And Trump knew about when Israel was going to strike them, and this is probably going to be the same thing again if Iran does not make a deal. Now, right now, progress, they say that progress is being made, but that was happening back in June. They said that significant progress was being made. So there's that, and this won't be, if the U.S. does strike Iran, this won't be just a little strike. This will be probably a couple days of just heavy strikes and ballistic missiles that will be shot on the country of Iran, on military assets or military equipment and that. So we have that, and when we come back, we'll talk about the yesterday big news story out of Washington, D.C., the Supreme Court. We'll talk about more about sports. Week 2 of the Olympics is about to close, and the U.S. hockey team plays for the Gold Cup against Canada. We'll talk about that later, coming up right after this break here on One Nation. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back this evening, ladies and gentlemen, here on One Nation with Cooper Balitsos. So yesterday was a big news story. So since President Trump got into office, he has been putting tariffs on pretty much all countries across the world. Now, a lot of these countries have settled with the United States, like Japan and Germany and other countries. And this has made a significant money for the U.S., money that we can put in for our budget for military supplies or other stuff like SNAP or anything else for the U.S. government. So yesterday, the Supreme Court voted on if this is illegal or unconstitutional. Now, most of the judges, 6 of the judges said yes, 3 of the judges said no. All Democrat judges did vote for yes, and also Chief Justice John Roberts, and the 2 justices from Trump's first term that he appointed voted for that. And then the 3 justices that did not was Newt Gingrich, from another justice from Trump's first term, Clarence Thomas, and Samuel Alito. And those were the 3 justices that did not vote for it. So right now, it's unsure if we have to pay the money back to those countries. Now, these were pretty much significantly all the countries in the world, around pretty much 100 to 50 countries in the world now. 150 countries in the world. Some of the biggest were China, Germany, the UK, France, and other countries. And a lot of these countries, yes, did make deals with the U.S. And why President Trump did this is that he wanted to have business back in the America. Now, here in Tennessee, there was a Nissan plant here in Smyrna, one of the largest plants in the world, actually the second largest car plant in the world that makes automobiles. Now, they were going to potentially move their operations back over to Japan, but when these tariffs hit, they stopped, and they did not. So that's like something what President Trump is doing. He wants businesses, multi-billion dollar companies, to stay back here in the States. So there was that, and other news this week that we're going to be talking about: the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie is still going on, day 21 right now. Nancy, no ransom letters, no anything has been found. There has no suspects, but the police has made one lead. They think there's multiple suspects that are involved with this potentially kidnapping or disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. So there's that. We'll talk about more stuff when we come back. Real quick, we'll talk about where the future home of the Chicago Bears could be, and other sports and news coming up on this week of the Cooper Balitsos on One Nation with Cooper Balitsos. We'll be right back. Good morning. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're back this morning. So right now we're just getting another alert out of those tariffs. The Supreme Court decided yesterday not to do it anymore for President Trump. Now, President Trump yesterday did announce that he will put 10% on all countries across the world, 10% on tariffs. Now he's just raised it to 15%, following the anti-American Supreme Court decision. So there is that. We'll talk about more of that probably on the morning show with Cooper Balitsos on Monday and Tuesday, and a couple other more days that we talk about that on the morning show, and probably next week. But we're going to talk about another big news story out of the UK. Former Prince Andrew was arrested on, I believe, Wednesday for misconduct in office. Now, if you don't know, Prince Andrew, brother of King Charles, the king right now of the UK, was former. Now he's gained a lot of publicity and media attention from his pretty much involvement of the Epstein files. Now, he was involved, he knew Epstein very well. And I'm not going to talk about this because then we're going to talk about this for the next couple of hours, all about the Epstein files. But that was one of the breaking news stories out of the UK that we were going to be talking about. But there was that, and then we have the high stakes State of the Union address that will be on Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, on February the 24th. Now, right now, the Democrat response, we don't know who will be doing the Democrat response to this, but last year it was Alyssa Stockton from Michigan. So right now, I am not a Democrat or a Republican or an independent. I am independent, but I'm an independent journalist. So if you want to watch me after the State of the Union address on February 24th, I will be doing the response of President Trump's State of the Union address. That will probably be around 10-ish when I post it. So there's that. And we have more news that is coming out of the Middle East. Like I was saying, we were going to talk about it when we talk about more in this show as U.S. planes land in Jordan. So these planes are landing in Jordan. These military planes, fighter jets, F-15s, probably B-2 bombers, will be making their way over to the Middle East for a potentially war, against the U.S. and Iran. So when we get back, we will be talking about sports, and we'll be talking about where the new future Bears stadium could be, Indiana or Illinois. I'm Cooper Balitsos. We'll be right back. Welcome back for One Nation with Cooper Balitsos, ladies and gentlemen. We're back right now. So, right now, if you did not know, on Thursday, news from Indianapolis to Chicago to Hammond, Indiana, went viral for possibly the new Bears Stadium, the new Chicago Bears Stadium. Now, Hammond, Indiana is outside of Illinois. Now, the Bears, for the past couple months, Indiana lawmakers from Northwest Indiana and other parts of Indiana have been trying to get the Bears, the McCaskey family, to build a brand new $1 billion stadium, $2 billion actually, in the city of Hammond in Northwest Indiana. Now, Hammond is right next to the notorious Gary, Indiana, home of the Jackson 5, Michael Jackson, and the world's largest steel mill. Now, Hammond, like I said, is a suburb of Chicago. It's right over the border of the state of Illinois. Now, for the past couple of years, the Bears have been looking at Arlington Heights in Chicago. It's like a high in Beverly Hills, for example, just in Illinois. And the McCaskey family owns a racetrack in Arlington Heights that they have been tearing down to possibly build this new stadium. But the thing is that the Bears do not want, the Bears are looking at, that they pay millions of dollars in taxes every year to the state of Illinois. Now, if they build this new stadium, they're going to pay millions and hundreds of millions of dollars if they do build this new stadium in Arlington Heights in Illinois. Hundreds, probably over $200 million. So there's that the Bears do not. But for the past couple months, like I said, the governor of Indiana has made a very nice investment and a very nice thing to the Bears. If you move to the state of Indiana, you could have no property taxes, free land, and we could pay for a large percentage of the stadium. Now, this stadium all around it would have hotels, restaurants, apartments, major infrastructure changes. Major. But the stadium would be a game changer, not just for Hammond, Indiana, but for Indiana itself. It already has the Indianapolis Colts. Now, getting the Chicago Bears, that's a whole nother level. Now, a large percentage, 50 is pretty much 50-50 between Bears fans. A lot of Bears fans, 50% of Bears fans want this to happen. 50% of Bears fans do not. But J.D. Pritzker has said that this would be a horrible investment if he did move to the state of Indiana. Now, J.D. Pritzker, this is his second term, has declined the population and declined the business. Over 200 businesses in the state of Illinois left last year. And that were from major companies to smaller businesses. Now, businesses like some of the well-known businesses, Tyson Foods, Boeing, Caterpillar, had moved out of the state of Illinois. But J.D. Pritzker wants to run for president. Now, if the Bears do move out, and there's been possible talks of the White Sox moving out. That's the second MLB team behind the Cubs in Chicago. They possibly want to move here to Nashville. Now, if the Bears do move out of the city of Chicago to Indiana, that will be a very bad thing for J.D. Pritzker. It will mean that he doesn't handle his economy, his state very well. He doesn't handle the businesses very well, and he has higher taxes to tax the people of these major companies and businesses, professional sports teams, for example. So there's that. Now, flipping from Indiana to Italy, so the 2026 Winter Games, Week 2 is about to come to an end. Right now, Norway is leading by 40 medals, and the U.S. is leading by 31. Now, the girls' Olympic hockey team made epic success in on winning the gold medal in hockey against Canada. Now the U.S. men's hockey team, the next couple of days, will play Canada for the gold medal. They won over Sweden and Slovakia for the past couple days. So, and then we go to basketball. Tonight here in Nashville, we have Tennessee playing number 19 Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt. That will be a great game. Tune on, I believe, ESPN or SEC Network for that. But for right now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching One Nation with Cooper Balitsos. We'll see you possibly on Monday morning on the morning show with Cooper Balitsos. This is the Balitsos. This is One Nation with Cooper Balitsos. We'll be back later. Or we'll be back on Monday. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.